Hey everybody, it's about 3:10 on a Wednesday, and like my last site that I used to work at, Wednesdays were the short days. They are the same here, and so classes have been out since 1:30, but because I wanted to make sure that the library was always open, I just made sure that I didn't take my lunch until 1 p.m. So now I can just loiter a little bit for the last 50 minutes of work. Well, pretty much it's been nonstop for most of the day. I really had no stop at all in regards to work, flow of kids. The library was was full swing. I mean, it was just a lot of stuff going on. And I mean, that's the way the library should be. It has to be open so that kids can get their books and stuff like that. But because of the way that things are where I work, 2.5 days out of the week I'm here at this site, and then 2.5 I'm at the other site that has no, and the lights just went off because the motion sensors are weird in here. But yeah, it's been interesting, and it's been a while since, it's been a few days since I've been online, with a Facebook Live. But, I just wanted to talk about some comment. I had to make a comment or so about yesterday's incidents at Riverside Unified School District. And this is probably one of the first times that I've gone on Facebook Live to talk about an actual current event going on. But one of the reasons why I feel like, I have to say something about the situation is, first off, if you aren't aware of the storyline, and I'm just going to glaze over the storyline, is basically there was an elementary school in Riverside, and a parent of a first grader broke protocol and went through the main office of this school and proceeded to go into a first grade teacher's, because this parent had a kid in first grade, went into a very well-known teacher's and very popular teacher's classroom and held the teacher hostage. And this hostage situation caused the evacuation of the entire school. And long story short, the incident began at about 11 a.m. and didn't end until 6 p.m. when police, because they didn't hear any response from the person that was being held hostage, broke into the classroom and rescued the teacher, who's actually okay, and then ended up killing the guy. So there's just a lot going on there, and it was a very scary situation because of that. And this is just from news that I've been reading. School at that site has been closed for the remainder of the week, and there are counselors on hand to help the students get through it. There are about 600 students in that school, and they were all evacuated safely. And apparently when this happened, all the students were at lunch, so there were no students in the classrooms when this parent broke in and did what he did. And it's really freaky, because just to put in perspective, I work for Fullerton School District. Fullerton School District and Riverside Riverside Unified are only 35 miles away from each other. So this happened less than 45 minutes away from where I work right now. And I think that is definitely something that's very eye-opening. It happened in the next county over, in Riverside County. And, it really is an isolated incident. It's an isolated incident, but it definitely does ask a few questions. So, when I go into this discussion, I'm not going to talk about the mental state of the person who broke in. I'm not going to talk about what this person's motives or anything, because obviously, the dude is dead. So you really can't ask him that, and we can only speculate based on the actions that he did. But what I can comment on is the whole idea of school security, and just the way that a school's grounds is set up. Because I was listening to the PR spokesperson for the Riverside Unified School District, who had to speak about the incident as it was unfolding. At the time this guy was speaking, the hostage situation was in progress, but some of the things that he had mentioned were very interesting. For example, this particular school only has one entrance. You have to enter the campus. You have to go in through the main office. and that main office only has one door that leads into campus. So one of the big things, and this is a plus for the school, is that the school itself only has one entrance in that is known. Obviously, there are some other service entrances, gates, whatever, for trucks to get in or do whatever, and that's a good thing. But the big emphasis to this is there was only one way into the school. So from what the spokesperson had said, and I'm saying this from what I've been reading and watching, is that this parent came in and spoke to the office. Apparently there was an issue going on, and then he just kind of busted through the office, went through the door, and then into campus. Now, from what I understand, is there was an employee, I believe it may have been a substitute teacher, who tried to stop the guy and ended up getting punched in the face, broke his nose, but did attempt to stop the parent from coming in and then doing what he did, which was great. And I will say this, as a school employee, our priority is to protect the kids, and protecting students, and sometimes at the cost of your own personal safety, is just one of those kind of unspoken things that we don't talk about. I know there's a bunch of teachers out there that if somebody came in and tried to harm any kid, that they would put themselves in front of the kid first. They just would. It's just what we do as school employees and those who work around people who cannot defend themselves or not strong enough to defend themselves. So the fact that gentleman put himself at risk to try to stop this guy was really cool. At the same time, we kind of go back into that whole situation of, okay, he just busted through the office, now what happens? Now, there are some questions that I will ask about this situation. For example, I'm not sure, it was never said whether or not the school actually had security officers on site. It's unclear if that was the case. Fortunately, and this is more from the spokesperson, is that, yes, there was a delay in getting the news out to parents, and there were a lot of parents who were upset and all that stuff. But I'll have to go on the side of the protocol for the school. In the event that something like this happens, in the event that we have an active shooter or something that is causing a threat enough to have to evacuate the whole school, here's what happens first. And this is just something I'm just throwing out there. First thing that happens when an evacuation is needed is the evacuation happens first. Okay? No phone calls are made, nothing is made. Students are required to leave campus, evacuate to whatever safe area has been designated by the school. After that, the threat has to be assessed. Where is the threat coming from? What has to be done about it? And depending if it is potential criminal activity, there has to be advisement from the police department that the school is under jurisdiction of. So in this case, they had to figure out, okay, what's going on? So the first thing you needed to figure out is, okay, what the hell is happening? In this case, it was agitated parent. And so they said, okay, hostage situation. So now they have to talk to, they have to figure out, okay, how are we going to be able to tell the parents? And then other barriers involved. Now, this is Riverside County. Riverside County, like LA County and Orange County, have a very high concentration of Spanish speakers. So the first thing that has to be done, especially when you're trying to tell parents the news of what's going on, and you have to put it on robodial or automatic or email or anything like that, is anything that is said in English has to be also said in Spanish. So you got to make sure that all of the news is correct, all of the facts are correct, and then you have to get someone who can translate it perfectly and then get all that news over. So yes, there's going to be a delay in regards to how information is going to get out. So if a parent is irate that it took at least an hour, maybe anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour for something like this, of this severity, to get out to them, yeah, I can see that being an issue. But you also have to realize that during the time of that hour where the students are being evacuated and then they were all evacuated to a park, the teachers had to do multiple things, and so did administration. You have to think about taking roll. You have to think about whether or not any students had been injured, and they have to treat them either on site or have to call paramedics. You have to think about a bunch of things. I mean, I'm just going down the list and coming up with what I have seen as someone who has, worked in a school district long enough to have seen some weird shit. And so, yeah, it was a freaky situation. 11 a.m. happened, and 11 o'clock is when this whole incident occurred. And it was reported that all of the students, from majority of the students except for like a handful, were all picked up by 1 p.m. So you think about it, that's 2 hours after evacuation and all the students went home. In my opinion, that's pretty good, especially when you have to deal with, okay, parent gets called that the school's been evacuated, please pick up your kid. Do you know how many parents? Okay, you've got 600 students there. Now, assuming that some of these students do have siblings, which will happen, right? They have to set up a station in which the parents have to come in, identify themselves as the parents of the child, and then the kid is surrendered to the parents. This is the same protocol that happens if there's a major earthquake. This is the same protocol that happens if there's a fire. Everything has to be, list and check it twice. We just don't say, oh, okay, yeah, you parent, you look like so-and-so. You can't do that. You have to make sure that you have full documentation of when the student was released to the parents and making sure that the student is being released to the right parent. Because then you've got other random shit. Like, for example, what if, on student record, that one student can go home with mom but can't go with dad because dad has a restraining order. You have issues like that. Or, hey, mom can't be there because mom works too far away. You have to go to the second person in line, and it may have to be an aunt, an uncle, or a grandma, or somebody like that who has a car and is able to get to campus. There are a bunch of different scenarios that could be happening. And if you have to deal with that and 600 kids, the fact that all 600 or most of the 600 kids were evacuated within a 2-hour period, that's pretty damn good. So honestly, there really shouldn't be as many complaints as people have been saying, because the fact is, and from what I understand and from what the looks of it is that evacuation protocol was followed as perfectly as it could. Okay? No other students were harmed. They took care of it. That was good. Now, I'm going to probably just digress a little bit here. So in terms of just evacuations and things like that, that was a very good thing. And, it's still unconfirmed whether or not the person who caused this had any weapons on him at all. But, you think about the way that anyone can enter a school. And this is where I'm kind of fearful for a few things. Because, for me here at Fullerton, the city of Fullerton is a pretty decent city. I really don't feel unsafe being here. However, with the way that these schools are built, and the way that they are really open campuses with no fencing, except barrier fencing that goes to the street, it's especially like this place. My elementary school does not have one single way to get into the school. Pretty much, it's a courtyard, and all of the classroom doors face out into the courtyard, and anyone can be on the courtyard. And in terms of like my location here in the media center, with it being in a trailer next to the main building, anyone could come in here and bust it open anytime they wanted to. There's no, you could check into the office for things, but the hard part too is that the office is hidden. You kind of have to go in, and the only reason why people check into the office first is because you have to. It's something that people have been instructed to do. But there is no like funnel. And when I mean funnel is like there's no like one direction to get in to the school. It's like, here you go, have at it. There's not like the one door that gateways into the campus like the particular elementary school that this incident happened to. So this is where it kind of gets a little weird, because I can say the same about my second site, is that yes, there is a way to get in. There's like one way to get inside the building. Actually, no. At my other school, there's 2 ways to get inside the building, and during school hours, the back door is also open, because half of the classrooms in my other site are outside in temporary trailers. So there actually is a flow of students going in and out of the buildings at all times, and that is also another potential security hazard. One of the big things that may aid in the safety of this is that the other school that I'm assigned to, which is on the other side of Fullerton, is in a really, really nice area that's extremely quiet. And I guess that lends to it. But at the same time, just in case anything happens, it just really opens up a few thoughts. So like if I put this in comparison, and I guess, the architecture and the layout of a school is usually reflective of the of the area that the school is in. You know, both schools that I work at are in a relatively safe area. Crime is pretty low. We don't have active gangs running around, you know, having gang parties and shooting up each other, you know, next to the buildings on any given day. Which, in comparison to my old site, you know, that was very commonplace because the area of South LA that my old school site was located in was definitely not one of the safest areas around. I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, my previous site had gates that were at least 15 feet high that were made out of steel, so you couldn't even crash a truck through it without busting up the truck. We had an armed guard, and after 12 in the afternoon, we'd have 2 armed guards, and you know, one of the guards pretty much had assault SWAT team like level gear if it ever got to that point. You know, that's the reality that I worked in, you know, a little over a month ago. Here, I mean, pretty much the only thing that we have in the school that I'm at right now, that I'm broadcasting from, is about a mile from Cal State Fullerton. You know, we have the Fullerton police, and if it ever got too bad, we would also have campus police, but they don't serve this area. Like, they don't serve as far out as I'm talking about. So, I mean, yeah, it is a very scary thing to think about, because as much as I want to trust that the area is safe, you know, you can't speak for the mindset, the mind state, of any given individual at any given time. Regardless of how normal you think people are, especially when they come into a school, they all have to be vetted. They all have to have a reason for them being here. And even though I'm not asking for security guards or anything like that, I'm not asking for gates that are 15 feet high that make this place look like a fortress, but there's definitely a lot to think about when stuff like this can potentially happen. Will I say that this is going to happen again? I would say, you know, it really depends, because, you know, if you're reading these news articles about the potential psychological profile of the person who caused this incident, I mean, I don't know. You know, anything can happen nowadays. You know, we've had a lot of school tragedies and a lot of just issues in regards to student safety and just the way that school safety can be compromised and cause lockdowns. And it's unfortunate that I have to keep in mind that a lockdown drill could happen at any time, and that we even have to think about stuff like this. I mean, hell, yesterday I was online, you know, looking up stuff in my email, and there's a catalog that I follow, you know, that I like to follow because of certain gear that I'm interested in, and they were advertising a regular backpack with level 3 body armor in it that could stop up to a .44 Magnum bullet. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, these are backpacks that students can wear that are guaranteed to be bulletproof. And that's really sad that I have to think about it this way, you know? It's like, oh no, I just want to give a student, you know, one of those backpacks that all has all those cute emojis on it and Pokemon and whatever. But no, this one, if someone shot at you, you'd actually have a chance of surviving. It's like the fact that you even have to think about someone potentially shooting you is really, really sad to think about when, you know, thinking about we're just going to school to get our education so we can move on with the rest of our lives. So yeah, it's quite upsetting. But anyway, I digress. But that's just my commentary on everything that happened yesterday, because considering that this happened about 35 miles from me, from my work site, and that these are actual issues that I could be seeing in my, you know, at my site, God forbid. And, you know, and because, you know, I am unable to, you know, arm myself with the most conventional methods, I have to be very creative as to how, you know, I would have to act or do anything in the middle of, you know, in the middle of a situation. I know the lights just turned off, you know, it's the motion sensors. I've been sitting at my desk too long. But yeah, so anyway, with that, I'm just going to close out with that. Any comments, questions about this particular issue, you know, please, you know, leave them in the comments. Like I said, you know, we don't know. We're never going to know why, you know, things happen the way they did. There's a lot of articles and news that you can read up on this incident and see, like, because I know that the from some articles, the family of the suspect was interviewed and all sorts of things. So definitely, use your best judgment. These are just my opinions, and just from the experience of me working in a school district that has a lot of students of the same age, it's just something to think about. So that being said, I will talk to you all later, and like I said, I like to see if there's any way that there can be a civil conversation in regards to this, because at this point, what's been done has been done, but it's a matter of thinking about logistics in a school to try to reduce the chances of someone even getting to the point of being, in a school in an unauthorized manner, potentially causing harm to a staffer or a teacher. So anyway, I will talk to you all later, and I'm going to go pretend I'm working for the next 25 minutes.